Linda is a program manager at the Innovation Idea Lab at WGBH, which is Boston's public radio station and part of the National Public Radio Service. Can we have it a little quieter in the back, please? So, Linda's also a longtime documentary writer, director, producer, and she worked on the staff of PBS Nova for 12 years. She's a member of the President's Council of Cornell Women and serves as the Vice President of the Board of World Education. So, Linda?
Thank you, Nick. Is this on? Can you hear me okay? Yeah, okay, great. So I have worked for many years with the Nova series of WGBH and PBS Public Broadcasting, and had the opportunity to go to Bangladesh a couple of decades ago for a program on child survival. And as I was preparing my research, I talked to a lot of people who had worked before leaving, and they said, oh, you're going to have such a great time in Bangladesh. So I was interested when I got there to find that that was indeed true. A vibrant atmosphere of Bengali culture and very lively intellectual stimulation, as well as great stories to tell. So as I was thinking about preparing for this, I realized how many things Bangladesh has given the world, from oral rehydration therapy to wonderful treatments for children who were dying of diarrheal diseases, through ICDDRB. I know it has a new name now, but I'm not sure what it is. And we also filmed with BRAC. And those days, F.H. Abed was saying we will knock on the doors of 3 million women. Well, it's many, many times that now, and spread to many different countries. And of course, later, microcredit efforts through Grameen and Grameen Phone, helping women to get into business, and later Bcash and other kinds of digital technologies for exchanging money. But I'm so pleased to be here, and thank you for inviting me. And I'd like to introduce my wonderful guests on the panel: Sonia Bashir Kabir, Managing Director of Microsoft Bangladesh, also Nepal, Bhutan, and Laos. She is Vice President and co-founder of Bangladesh Women in Technology, founder of D-Money, co-founder, I should say, and founder president of TIE Dhaka, which stands for the Indus Entrepreneurs, which I was interested to read about online, mentoring businesses. She's also thinking very much about the SDGs through the UN Global Compact, and she's a national athlete. Has played volleyball and cricket, so a very well-rounded person. I wanted to ask each of our panelists to say a few words about their personal journeys to get to where they are, and then we'll go on to have more of a discussion about the situation of women more generally in Bangladesh. So we'll start with Sonia and then move on. Yeah.
Thank you, Linda. So I believe that leadership has no gender. Man is in woman, he is in she, male is in female. So if you spell these words, you see that we coexist, we collaborate, we cooperate, we compete, and we compete. Bangladesh, my country, has proven to the world that we, the nation, believe in women, and we have the highest level of leadership that is female. So one of the things that I'm very passionate about is saying that we have that as the infrastructure where women are given very high positions, but how do we scale? How do we go from millions to billions, or how do you grow the numbers? And that's where my energy is going to be spent on when I discuss with you today, that what do we do for taking women to the next level? And I think that there are two areas there. One is on an individual level, where the women need to do two things, in my opinion. That has been my journey, that trading in on gender is impermissible. So you forget that you are a woman. You run like anyone else, and you compete like any other gender, which is male or female, doesn't matter. And the second thing is that it's very important to be in the game. You know, spectator never wins or loses, a player does. So be in the game, get involved, make a choice, say what you want to, spend political capital. If you are wrong, it doesn't matter, but just be in the game. And then if I look at it from the individual perspective where we say, okay, women are going to say there's no gender, I will forget I am a woman, and second is I am going to be in the game, I have skin in the game. On the other side is the government, and how does the government help or encourage women? So one thing that is Frank Nefke said in his presentation this morning about leveraging your capabilities, and I really like that because I think Bangladesh, if you look at our women, we've been given chances. Our garment story is very successful. There's lots of women being employed who were previously maybe working as household help. How do you graduate these women, the garment workers, to the next level? So just a thought for the audience that I would be passionate about is, let's say if we had a BPO, business process outsourcing industry in Bangladesh like Manila, how do you take these women and take them to that level? And then you bring more women into this game. Okay. And the second thing is that we as a country, we have equal opportunity, but what we should be spending our time and energy on is affirmative action. That is, your jobs cater to the need of the female, understanding that there are women and mothers and things like that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Excellent. Lots of food for thought there. Next, we have Anika Chowdhury, who is head of business development and strategy at Square Pharmaceuticals. And she has the belief that international expansion is going to be crucial for business sustainability using ERP tools and big data. And she has a keen interest in technology, her latest venture being to radicalize the present healthcare system in Bangladesh. So Anika, can you speak to us a little bit about how you got to where you are and also some of your major plans for the future? What are in those goals for radicalizing?
Thank you, Linda. Coming from the healthcare sector, I think since we're talking about women's empowerment, one of the main things that we need to focus on right now is how the women who are in the workforce, how they have come there, and what Bangladesh has done really to get there. So if you look at some key health indicators, we'll see that Bangladesh has done tremendously well in curbing maternal mortality and infant mortality. The policymakers have understood that we need to attach necessary cognizance in order to empower women and to ensure that it's a level playing field and for the women, to make sure that they know that when they're in the workforce, they have all these abilities, that there's childcare in their workplace, and that that they have the ability to work in an environment which is conducive to them. So how, from the private sector, do we make sure that these incentives are in place for them to be in the workplace, not having to worry about the health issues or childcare issues and whatnot? So we at Square, we are focusing a lot. We have development programs for our female colleagues, where we're giving them vocational training so that they understand the production process. We have skill development programs for them, where they can be more on a managerial level, develop those kind of skills. If you look at some UNDP stats, you'll see that only 5.4% of these women are in decision-making positions, whether it be in corporates or in legislation. So we need to make sure, like Ms. Kabir said, that we need to make sure that these women are not in only low-paying jobs, but also graduate onto more decision-making processes. So this is what we are looking at right now, and we're trying to focus on building capacity for these women so that they can graduate onto those higher paying or higher skill jobs.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Farjana, you are managing director of the Green Delta Insurance Company. You have to think about a lot of issues that are a lot of uncertainties about the future, whether it's the weather changing or global prices of food changing, and you're trying to manage insurance for women. Can you speak with us a little bit about some of your experience trying to make sure that insurance is available to everyone?
Well, thank you, Linda, and thank you, the organizers, for inviting me to speak and represent Bangladesh women leaders. I have a diverse work experience from microfinance to banks and then in the insurance sector. That we've seen that women leadership in the business in Bangladesh has come a long way. And in the insurance sector, although the penetration of this sector insurance is less than 1% in Bangladesh because of the lack of awareness. And if you see, women entrepreneurs are not even thinking of insurance at the moment, but innovation, through innovations, product innovations, in this sector, sky is our opportunity. The limit is huge opportunity we have. Through Nivedita, it's the first comprehensive women insurance in South Asia that we have developed, and through that, before developing, we thought, what women need? Women need, like the other speakers have mentioned, they have issues like, what will happen if she gets married or if she has children. So she has all those obstacles. So there are issues to be addressed in those in one package, and through that we have developed a value-added services through insurance. So in addition to the accidental and health coverage, they have access to finance, access to information, access to counseling service, access to security, and access to law enforcement agency, and of course the training and the access to hand-holding. So these are the services we in a very short period of time we've been able to reach more than 10,000 women and improve their lifestyle. And there was a few instances where women workers turned herself to an entrepreneur. So it's like, believe in women's capability. In one of the micro health insurance with the health ministry, we found out that out in 3 areas like Kalia, 3 areas in one district, in 73 out of 73,000 households, more than 68,000 households were women, where they are the decision makers. So, these are the instances we have found out in the weather insurance package also, where we paid more than 1,000 farmers, and we found out more than farmers are 90% are women. So you can see if you give them opportunity, and they could contribute, and they could not only contribute to their family but also to the community, and also to the society and the profitability, and they can value add and in the wealth management. So I think through mentoring to take them to the next level, I think there are other private sectors who have also taken the women, from the workers level to the managerial position. But there are other issues where not many women are coming to the CEO's position. So I think there should be a kind of an incubator where all those, maybe there could be a PPP projects where private sector and public sector and the government can come together and, after that training and those mentoring, they could go to the next level. And I think if you come to Bangladesh, if you explore Bangladesh, I think there are many opportunities. You can find out that there are many women entrepreneurs who are actually role models. So sometimes we send our women entrepreneurs abroad to learn, and I think it could be vice versa, where other women entrepreneurs or researchers can come in Bangladesh and see how these women are facing these struggles and coming out of these issues with success.
So leadership training for
mentoring and
yes. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. There's a saying that talent is universal, but opportunity is not, and therefore have to take special measures to figure out how to make those opportunities available so you can tap into the talent that clearly you already have on this panel. So, Sonia, may I ask you, your CEO of Microsoft said, Satya Nadella said, we should be asking ourselves not only what computers can do, but what computers should be doing. And what can computers do to help women, do you think, in particular? Have at that wherever you'd like to enter.
With technology, there's a disruption that is happening, right? So every field that has been doing business the way they do is being challenged and perhaps being changed. FinTech is just an example, but we've got a few other verticals that are coming up very quickly. That is education or edutech, health tech, and the last one that is my absolute favorite is agri-tech, right? How do you the inclusion of women in this digital journey is a task that I think our government has taken. We are, with the private sector, we're trying to educate more and more women about technology. And the beautiful thing about the technology revolution is that the rules of the games have changed. Mm-hmm. There is no agenda, there is no preference for any country. Everybody is at the same start line. Now, Bangladesh has a population of 160 million people. Our state minister has already talked about data, but data is a new currency. So if we get women involved in using technology in any one of these verticals and then just teaching them some few basic things, they can actually graduate to professionals that we don't have right now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very good. And Farjana, as you think about the uncertainties that come along with climate change or blights that could hit crops, how can the insurance industry in Bangladesh cope with that and help its farmers, many of whom, as you've told us, are women, cope with that and prevent some of the upheavals? We know many farmers live very close to the margins and they can't afford to take huge risks. Can you comment on that?
Thank you, Linda. Agriculture is one of the largest sector in Bangladesh, and of course insurance is one of the greatest important factor. And there are many pilot projects. We have taken a pilot project with IFC, which is the weather base index, and whether the farmers can be aware of the weather, and accordingly they can take the decisions. And it's easier for the insurers also to plan out their insurance package. So. In this case, as I have mentioned, the awareness of insurance is very, it's in the primitive stage, of course, but we need education. We need education both ways. So not only giving, it's not only giving the insurance package to them, but also to make them aware. And the pilot project is actually, we have tested in many areas, including south and north areas of Bangladesh, so that we're working with all the seed companies and the farmers, and trying to make up a bundled product with the banks, so that it's like risk mitigation tools, so that we can train them regarding the insecticide or the amount of the land that they're working, and which paddy or which crop they should focus into. It's like a more two-way training, and we've already started it, and
it's kind of best practices in
absolutely,
agriculture.
And we are getting good results, and it's amazing that there are other farmers said that when we will be getting our claims. So it's like in some of the farmers who have received the claim amount, they were like really surprised that they didn't know that it's like covering excess rainfall. They had no clue that after 5 days it will be they will fall into that category, that they will receive the claim. So these are the areas that we need to kind of train not only our customers but ourselves, learn from the countries with best practices. And uncertainty is not only in Bangladesh, it's actually everywhere.
That's true.
So it's kind of a learning by doing things. And I think Bangladesh is a country, as you know, you've seen our Prime Minister with having all this uncertainty, what we had, our Bangladesh satellite has been launched yesterday. So I think Bangladesh doesn't believe in uncertainty. We don't really scared of uncertainty. So we are here to kind of face it, and that is something that challenge makes all of us perform better. So I think we are, all proud Bangladeshis, we feel that if you don't have any challenges, there's nothing to work for. So I think in
Challenge is a motivator.
Challenges, that makes you perform better.
Okay, and thank you. Anika, can you speak about some of the particular obstacles that women face sometimes in moving forward in the workplace, and what kinds of measures could be helping them, whether it's flex time or time off when they have their children? Can you speak a little bit about the kinds of conditions that can enable women to succeed in the workplace?
Sure. So in terms of, sorry, you asked for what kind of?
What kinds of benefits that could be put into place in the healthcare field to enable women to work well and accommodate some of the particular demands on their time as mothers or, yes.
Sure. So in terms of, so one of the main problems that women face are or if you're talking about labor participation or in factory workers, are hygiene problems. So what we need to do is we need to have awareness programs about how to curtail this female hygiene problems, and then we can provide them with subsidized rates to maintain this and not to be held back because of these reasons. We talked about a little bit about childcare and flex timing and all of that stuff. So all of this is in place, but how much is it in practice, and how conducive is the environment for these women to work? So we need to incentivize, I think, corporations and with the help of public sector, that if there are incentives to hire women in the form of maybe some sort of tax rebate or in wage subsidies, that if women are hired, they can get some sort of a rebate. So they will be encouraged to hire more women and to have more women in the workforce. In terms of also working with the government, I think we need to have a lot of grassroots awareness campaigns. Back in the 80s, there was not a lot of understanding of family planning, but we have achieved that now. So I think in terms of getting more women in the workforce, we need to have a lot of these grassroots level awareness programs that encourage women to also get into the workforce. So this, I think, is an important aspect where the private sector should work with the government sector to come up with these sort of campaigns.
Okay, what about women who want to start their own businesses and access to capital? I read in a recent World Bank report that less than 15% of women entrepreneurs have real access to capital. Can any of you jump in on that? I'm not sure who might want to speak.
Access to capital. I think, in Bangladesh, there are a lot of startup Bangladeshis here. A lot of venture capitals are working, and we are actually, I'm also part of the venture capital firm, and women are given more priority in that sector. I think this will also help the women entrepreneurs to come up with new ideas, and there are innovation hubs in many organizations where they get ideas from women. And I think this way, if you have more competition, more award or recognize these women with their capability and their success story can come up, I think it will have a positive impact. Like I said, Bangladesh is full of opportunities, and if you just go into deep, you'll find more women with more opportunities. And I think we need to have integrated services, integrated approach like technology and healthcare and insurance and banks and finance. We need to have a kind of a more integrated approach and work in one platform to address the issue. So, and technology is an enabler, and having an app is an amazing thing. One day people can see, whether the weather index model can be seen in an app or anything. So so this is something the women entrepreneurs having more access to trainings and access to opportunities, I guess. I mean, we need to have a positive mindset. like in the presentations, we've seen that if more labor participation of women, if that can reduce the poverty, if you encourage more women in the entrepreneurship and in the leadership positions in power sectors and RMGs and pharmaceuticals industry, I think with a combined ratio, we'll have more that will contribute to more GDP in the country in the long run.
So if I was to shortly add on, that financial inclusion is key to actually enabling women to take loans. Till such time we solve that problem, which we have begun solving, about 60 million people of the 160 are still unbanked. So that will lead to formal loans and funds being released to women. So that is in the works. So that's something we need to solve.
So mobile banking is going to
Definitely
be
is,
absolutely
yes.
key to that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to add that access to information, they have like 5,000 digital center where all women are also working. So that actually, and they are working with the private sector. So private sector engagement is there, and through which more employment opportunities, more trainings, and I think more entrepreneurs will be created in that.
So with the launch of this wonderful satellite, you will have your own information coming in from space.
Absolutely.
Can each of you comment from your own sectors how you think this may transform things? And my experience in Bangladesh was that a lot of it was very rural, and it's from a couple of decades ago, so I don't want to assume that things are the same because I haven't been back. But Dhaka was one thing, and lots of outlying areas were another thing. So can you comment a little bit about how things may change?
Or do you want me? So I'll make it very short. I think connectivity should be free, like the air we breathe, because the way technology is going, you need to be connected to have any application, whether it is locally hosted, whether it is the cloud. So with the launch of this Bangladesh Bangabandhu satellite, we see that it will become affordable. We will not have to pay international players the amount we've paid. We did invest a lot of money, but I think over the long run, the cost of connectivity comes down, the reach goes higher, and that's when more people access technology. And technology, if taken to the last mile, actually can help an economy move from LDC to middle economy or do better.
Okay. Would you like to comment? You go first.
Well, I think I'm very excited about it because that will really help us taking more decisions, taking more, building more products like economic zones. One economic zone, it can cover into one umbrella risk and one insurance coverage, and that will, have a financial leap for all the industries. So I think. Not only in the power sectors, but also in other sectors, we'll have more diversified products, and there will be a lot of efficiency in the products and services, and of course, cost. Efficiency means cost savings as well. So I think, and our branding of Bangladesh will be higher, and I think everyone can see that we're not a bottomless basket anymore. Bangladesh has reached a stage where you have heard from all our state ministers' presentations, and also our SDG coordinators that we have a plan for 2071, a 100-year vision a country has. So
it's
I think
amazing. Yes,
and definitely. And I'll just end with a note that with this momentum, I think we can break that comment that has come from the World Economic Forum. It will take more than 150 years to reduce the gender parity. I think Bangladesh, if we go this way, and definitely we can say that. We'll
there a
achieve
lot
this
faster.
lot faster than that. Thank you.
We're actually the first country in the South Asian region to have achieved gender parity.
Yes.
So
Yes.
The MDG goals, yeah, of
that's
course.
Okay.
Anika didn't make
Anika,
the
you
point.
did.
Yes,
So since we
Anika,
were
sorry.
talking about technology and connectivity, I'd just like to take this opportunity to mention one thing that...
Just speak up a little bit.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Since we're on the topic of connectivity and technology, I'd like to take this opportunity to kind of segue into what the Honorable Executive Chairman of VITA has mentioned about knowledge and technology going hand in hand. So I've been thinking about how we can sort of leapfrog into development using technology, and how we can invest in the education sector, which I think is very important, not only in the empowerment of women, but also in the nation. So this whole education system has to see some sort of reform in the coming years. And how do we leverage technology to do that? How do we introduce future-proof education? How do we use technology to uplift this? And I think because Bangladesh being so bullish about investing in technology and our vision of 2071 that they said, that Ms. Kabir mentioned, we need to find ways to incorporate the development of technology into education.
I know in this country, many people are talking about the future of jobs and work and what's going to be the impact of artificial intelligence and robotics. And one thing that's coming very clear is the need to have continuing lifelong education and the willingness on part of the people to retrain, find new skills. Right now there's a big effort to get girls and women into coding, but coding may one day be done by computers and taking that over. So the need is to help young people figure out how to keep learning as they go along and not be afraid to acquire new skills.
Sure, like learning how to learn, that is one of the theories.
Exactly, yeah. Sonia, you tantalized us by talking about ed tech, health tech, agri-tech, and one other, fintech. Yes, could you elaborate on those a little bit and tell us what you meant?
If I was to talk about Bangladesh, there's 50 million students that we have in the country, and while our government has taken initiatives to introduce technology in the classrooms, I think there is a lot more that can be done. There's private companies like Microsoft. I'd like to mention my company at some point today, and we are taking initiatives to train the teachers because we call them Microsoft Innovative Educators, where the content is delivered leveraging technology. So that is a whole area. It's not just for Bangladesh, it's for the rest of the world, because education is a traditional field that has not been disrupted by technology yet. Similarly, agriculture, if I was to talk about farmers in our country, we have 70 million farmers, and they every day they use the same formula to water the plants or to give them the manure. But the yield is not the same. So how do you use machine learning and predictive maintenance and remote messaging to tell a farmer that this patch of land does not need this much of water, and so that is what we are working on as well. Health tech, we have about 100,000 doctors, including dentists, for about 160 million people. So there really has to be a need for disrupting how the doctor-patient sees each other and minimize the time where 30 minutes is spent on just the history of the patient, and then comes the remedy. So how do you use the computer or technology to get the patient's history up automatically so that the doctor has metrics or graphs and sees, okay, this is your problem, how do I solve? Those are the three that I think fintech is gaining a lot of headway, so I wouldn't take too much time talking about that.
Okay. Well, with artificial intelligence and robotics becoming such a big deal on the horizon, and a very young population, how do you get your kids in education to think about their future and begin to design perhaps new businesses that they might want to work in? Or I attended a conference at the Legatum Center, which our friend Iqbal Qadir headed at MIT for a long time, and my mind was just blown by the number of opportunities that came about through the use of cell phones and digital technologies for finding work, for providing opportunity. And when you think about the Sustainable Development Goals, can you speak a little bit about how you think these technologies are going to...
Yes, I think to start with, that we need to kind of train our new generations. The STEM, that is a kind of a more buzzword nowadays, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. They need to kind of learn, and there needs to be more diversification of, and more women to be also involved in this. And then I think nowadays, you don't need to kind of teach any child to operate a mobile or a smartphone.
They're digital
I mean, my
natives.
daughter is 1 year old, and you'll be surprised that when she swipes, the mobiles, and she wants to see one cartoon. So this is kind of, I think it's actually in the gene nowadays. So I think you need to kind of get them more involved. And I think what Soniapa was mentioning, that using the computers and having the technology in the education system, online learning, or in any digital information in your mobile or your computer or your laptop. I think this is the way you can kind of educate them and give them exposure. And I think there should be more structured format, and in this case, I think the education ministry and private sector, they can kind of come into a platform where there should be new design of the more of the structural system, and also to transform the workers from one level to another. I mean, to a higher level, you need to kind of make them, train them, and make the
Professional development.
The professional development in such a way so that they kind of have a more layers of trainings, and when you go higher
step
up,
process.
step by step, and they are more friendly. I mean, they become more user friendly. Like the farmers that we have mentioned, and they also now knows how to kind of see an app, and how to kind of see, go to a website and go to a help desk and ask for information. And you don't need to be educated, or you can see only the phonetics. And now technology has gone to a level that we have Bengali apps, and Bengali, everything is in Bengali. So I think in that case,
I have to jump in. There's a point I'd like to make about artificial intelligence, is that people are, as more and more the computer learns to make decisions, it will outpace the human brain, because it doesn't have our capacity. That's called singularity. So when a computer outpaces the human brain, there is a fear that the jobs will be lost. But there's an EQ, which is the emotional quotient. There that is a big part of a decision-making process, which a computer will never have. So how do you use the computer to the max, and then apply the human skill that a computer doesn't have, and you get the algorithm in any problem you solve, is what the future will
it's
be.
like knowledge management, having the computer and also the human brain to work together.
Right. And so much of education in traditional days was about memorizing and just kind of listening to lectures and then getting the right answers on tests. And now we hear that working on teams is what is a tremendously important skill. Do you see any of that happening with women in particular, that girls and women can get together with either boys and men, or in their own groups, to learn to build things and to make things? It's something that's a big issue here, and I wonder if you find it there. Oh, we need to go? Okay.
I think we've gone over.
Oh, we've gone over? Okay, I'm sorry, I beg your pardon. Okay, that's fine. Oh, we haven't, I thought I saw a question from the audience.
Yeah, so in
At Teams, yeah.
You want to take questions?
Yeah, please think if there are questions. Oh, there's one back here, yeah.
Very interesting conversation, so I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Just looking at the data, if you look into the data, it shows that if you add the market cap of Microsoft, Facebook, Google, Apple, and Netflix, over $3 trillion. If we add all the industrial companies in the world, all the oil companies, power companies, Everything that we have, it barely gets to $1 trillion. I'm not saying that that is not important. That is important. But we know what the power and money is. Right? The question is, how do you leapfrog to an environment in Bangladesh which can create opportunity to invest in AI, robotics, and all other things that you're talking about? Thank you.
I certainly don't have the answer. Maybe one of my panelists would like to talk about that. Sonia?
Yes, I'll begin with a real example of a boy who is from Cox's Bazar, and he is a BUET student. He applied for a Microsoft competition, and his product was called Fast Gnosis, which means quick diagnosis. What he did was he took the picture, an X-ray of, let's say, malaria, and it's really, right now, a digital microscope. A technician looks at malaria with a digital microscope and says yes or no. So he applied the algorithm of identifying a disease in artificial intelligence or machine learning, and right now he's at 90% accuracy. So he can actually help a digital clinic identify up to 5,000 diseases a day with just an app where you don't have to be a student. So this is where Bangladesh can leapfrog, that you don't really need to be a doctor or a digital clinician to solve these problems. Someone needs to have the technology that you can share with people, and even students can do this. He qualified for the Microsoft Asia Finals. He didn't have a passport. We created a passport. We flew him to Manila. Over there, he qualified to go to US. We got him a US visa. He's gotten about $100,000. And we are now connecting him to Bangladesh hospitals because, we have 2,000 X-rays a day, only 500 can be processed. So there's disease control. There is, people spreading diseases, people dying before being diagnosed. So a lot of these problems can be solved with AI, and it's actually very simple, where you can hire interns who have an app that has already been built by someone and then solve. We have many questions. I'm going to let the others answer.
First, I have to ask Nick, how much?
I think we can do another question.
Another question?
Do you
Okay.
is there a
Chris, one.
question back? Right here.
Yeah, I have a question. We'll be talking a lot about IT and what we do for digital inclusion in the next panel. But I wanted to actually challenge all of you. First of all, I think this room is a good example of what the work that needs to be done in Bangladesh. I don't see the women leaders from Bangladesh here. I'm glad that you have this panel. But really, your voices should be everywhere, not just in the women's leadership panel. So thank you for being here. But I would like to hear, not just from all of you, but from maybe some of the leaders here in the room, what are you doing to change this pattern? This room is a really bad example of what Bangladesh needs. And I think that what you need is precisely people like you to change the status quo and to really change the vision of Bangladesh that I think all of you are certainly sharing with us here. But we don't see it in practice. I certainly don't see it in practice when I'm in Dhaka, in other places in Bangladesh. So I would like to hear from you. What are you doing so it's not just the boy that earns that prize, but maybe many girls that go into STEM industries. And some of you, I'm sure you're very familiar and you are active in a lot of the Women in Technology associations and group in Bangladesh. But still, I think today is a really good example that a lot of work needs to be done, and I want to challenge all of you to think a little bit differently, because I certainly don't see enough energy for that to change.
So I'd like to answer that, actually. So, we have a reverse situation where our prime minister is female. Many countries don't even have that. So we lead from the other end, and we're working on this end. Yes. Yeah.
Anybody else who want to comment?
No, sure, you're correct. The Constitution provides for equal opportunity, and like I was saying earlier, that there are policies that make it an equal playing field. But is it really in practice? Not really. If we look at the statistics, we have like 25 versus 75 divide between men and women in the workforce. But it's not something that we should be disheartened by. There are, with the change of time, there are women who are coming into the workforce. The environment is becoming so that it is more of a equal. People are provided with more equal opportunity in practice, also not just in theory. But I think by the next generation, there should be a 50-50 divide
But
amongst the working population.
I think she raises a good question, and maybe the men in this room who are in those, we heard a lot about power today, and the men who are in those positions of power could think about mentoring or providing some leadership opportunities for some of the up-and-coming young women who may be in your industries.
Yeah, I think it should start from home. The women empowerment objectives should be, embedded in your strategic objective. I mean, you have to walk the talk, like we did. There should be equal opportunities for women, not only in paper, like work from home, in business, and you have to bring in women into the business decisions, taking business decisions, going into a CEO role, rather than going into HR or chartered accountant or admin or a manager. So that those are not very challenging. So I think giving opportunity, you have to have the confidence in women. And for the women entrepreneurs or women leaders, I would say that we have to also come out of our comfort zone.
Yes.
And take opportunity. If there is no brand, you become the brand. That is what I feel, that if no one's giving you opportunity, you have to step forward and fight for your opportunities. And if you perform, believe me, it works. And your voices will be heard. Thank you.
Maybe that's a good place to wrap.
I have one question, kind of a follow-up to what you've been talking about. You mentioned the teamwork and so forth, and this question on the strategy. And now there's a big movement toward agility in business, which is team-based work and cross-functional, and pushing decision-making down to the floor rather than the top and so forth. So I'm wondering, like, as a woman, if you were in a small team of, say, 5 people and 4 were men, would you feel like you had the empowerment to speak up and make your own decisions, or to push your decisions to the front?
Well, I could speak up first.
Okay.
I have been in that position more times than I can count, and being a production assistant to many men, most of whom came from England, by the way, and then working my way up to be a producer, and then working with a lot of all-male crews. And it comes with practice, I mean, you're frightened at first, and then you begin to speak up, and you just say, well, it's better to speak out, and even if you're wrong sometimes. Anyway, my colleagues, can you?
So I actually work in a man's world. I'm always with men. Yes. I would say that there are 3 C's I'd like to highlight. It's the ability to have the courage to challenge and change. Once you've mastered that, and you don't think you're a woman, it's easier said than done. But that's where we need to encourage women to first have the courage, and technology is allowing that to happen now.
I think I've answered that we work in a men's world, and the industry that I am in, the financial industry, it's all men. So I think you have to think like a man sometimes, and you don't think that you're a woman. So that is how we have to come out from our own barriers first, and then people will respect us when they see our the results. Because I think women are more action-oriented and result-oriented, and we have multitasking ability, and we have proven in many areas, and I think we just have to add up. And
I'm just remembering Bill Gates going to, I think it was Saudi Arabia, and saying, you're missing half your talent pool because they're not in the room.
Sure.
So you're missing your talent pool if you're not in helping them. Good.
No, I think this is also like a 2-pronged approach, because one is that women, they systematically, I feel like, undermine themselves, undermine their own abilities, so they need to come out of that inhibition that I can't do this, or I can't really work in a man's world, which I don't really understand what that is. And the second thing is that men also need to understand that they need to enable women to perform as they should. They don't, if they should participate in household work, women do 2 to 3 times more household work and childcare. So if men are also an equal partner in the household or in other aspects of life, then I think it should be more of an environment where they can both work.
Okay. Thank you for your attention and for our wonderful panel.
Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.